enjoy learning about other people's achievements. How did they do it? How can you do it? So for the next 30 minutes, sit back and relax while you and I explore these very special wonders that make people successful and interesting. Welcome to my world, and Dr. Passes presents. So the other day, I'm reading an article in one of our local newspapers, and I'm just reading it and reading this article, and I'm starting to get huffy under the collar, and I'm starting to have my blood boil. No, we're not going to be talking about health. We're not going to be talking about dentistry. We're not going to be talking about medicine. We're not even going to be discussing restaurants and the latest wines out in wine country. We're talking about our home. We're going to be talking about things that affect you where you live, if you live in the town of North Hempstead. Yes, let me get right down to it. First, the article that I was reading was written by our own wonderful supervisor, and that's Jen DeSena. Supervisor, thank you so much for coming down here.
Thank you so much for inviting me.
And the article just absolutely it got me all fired up. Let me tell you about this, and then we're going to really have the supervisor discuss it in greater detail. I'm talking about the Hochul Housing Plan. Now, I don't know if many of you know about it, but instead of me telling you about it, I'm going to ask our supervisor to just tell you what the Hochul Housing Plan is, and then after you explain it, we're then going to go into all the pros and cons and everything else. So first question, what is the Hochul Housing Plan?
So the Hochul Housing Plan is an attempt to basically radically change Long Island.
What does that mean?
So Long Island is, we know we moved here for having backyards, great public schools. We have volunteer fire departments. There's a quality of life that we chose when we moved to Nassau County and Suffolk County, but basically Long Island. And by the way, it's an island. We have very limited resources. We're surrounded by water. Mm-hmm. So how much can we build on an island?
That's exactly right.
There is a limit, and we also live on top of our sole source aquifer. So we are limited geographically. Mm-hmm. So the Hochul Housing Plan would change the housing of all of New York State. And it has targets and deadlines that we've never seen before. It's something coming from Albany that will tie the hands of local government like me, like the town board.
Hold it. I'm going to be stopping you because I want clarification here. You said a lot of stuff. Okay. What does it mean it's going to change Long Island? Just give me what the idea of that change is. Then we'll get into a lot of other questions.
Right.
What does that mean?
The change is that there will be mandatory housing targets. We must build, according to Governor Hochul, we must build 3% of our housing stock every 3 years. So whatever our housing stock is now, we have to increase that by 3% every 3 years. So it's some kind of quota that they invented in Albany. And by the way, for most of the state, it's only 1%. But for Long Island and Westchester County, it's 3%.
I guess it's because we have so much extra land?
I don't understand it.
Where's that land going to come from?
We already are very dense. Nassau County is the densest suburban county in the country. So why would you tell us we now have to become more dense by 3% every 3 years?
Well, it's very simple. Come on now, it's very simple. It's because someone who doesn't live here, someone who doesn't understand what you just said, figures, well, just do it. It must be someone who is in another part of the state where it's like watching the old show, The Virginian, where you had the ranch was stretched for thousands of miles, so to speak.
Right.
We don't have that here.
We don't have that here. We have limitations that we struggle with. We're trying to put in sewers in some parts of Long Island.
We're going to discuss that later.
We're going to get that. But, I mean, all over Long Island, we have some limitations in parking. We have our our emergency services, our power grid, all these things. And by the way, we're very environmentally conscious on Long Island, and that is also mandated by the state. There are state hearings that we have to go through about every big project to find out what will the impact be on our environment. So why would you throw all that in the garbage? All of the hearings that we usually go through, environmental hearings about the impact of development, why throw that in the garbage for these new targets that have been imposed on us by Albany? And frankly, we'll have no choice. I mean, when you have local zoning and local government, you're giving the community a chance to be heard. So a project is proposed, there's a town board meeting or a village meeting, and people come, experts come on water quality, on power, on sewers, and they speak about what the impact will be of this. That will all be gone because the power is being taken and transferred to Albany to decide these issues.
So much to say, because I'm fuming inside.
Yes.
So I grew up in one of the boroughs, and I remember as a kid, in the very early 50s, there was land. There was land all over the place. It was easy. And now you go back to that same place now, and you can hardly see the sky.
Yeah.
Because the buildings are just so tall, and it's just covered with buildings, obscuring the beautiful view of the sky, let's say. And I elected in the 70s to come out here. And I've been here ever since. And I hear this phrase, I elected to come here because of the way of life, a standard of living. I wanted to be here. I paid for it. It's not cheap, but that was my choice.
Right.
I did that. Now, how can someone who is not part of this area dictate to residents? I not only live here, I work here. I am fully vested in this area, as there are a number of people who are as well. And I just can't see and understand how someone can tell me what my neighborhood should be like and how it should change. I don't understand. How can that be stopped? Well,
a big step that must happen is that this has got to come out of the New York State budget, because not only is this a substantial change that we frankly can't afford. It was put into the state budget with no input from local leaders. We were not asked for any input. No mayors, no town supervisors, no county executives. This was unveiled as a part of the budget in an attempt to ram it through. And the deadline, the budget will be voted on possibly April 1st.
So this is a part of the budget,
yes.
But there's money allocated for this?
The amount of money is $250 million for the whole state. So it's laughable. That's what it costs for one small section of seating at Belmont Park. So the idea that $250 million could address the infrastructure needs for the state, it's absurd. And frankly, the state can offer money to help municipalities with design, but there must not be this threat of taking away your rights to determine. If people have described this as a top-down approach, the word has come down from Albany, you will do it this way or else. A better approach would be bottom up. So you make the money available and you try and incentivize municipalities to develop different types of housing stock. And many places are doing that. The village of Mineola and the village of Westbury, which are within the town of North Hempstead, have been praised for some developments over there. They're very popular and they're full. So we are doing that. Some people say, well, what's the alternative? We're doing the alternative, and that is where we listen to the people, we look for new uses of our land, and if the state can give us some funding to help with infrastructure, that would be great. But you do it while you're listening to the people's voices. That's democracy. People did move here for a choice of how they're living, their land use, their choice, and taking it away is really changing democracy.
So let's play with this for a moment. So let's say this occurs. Let's take a town. Let's take Manhasset.
Yes.
Which you and I know best.
Yes.
Where are you going to do this? You're supposed to build all this affordable housing by the train station?
Right.
What are you going to do? You're going to knock out a lot of the commercial? I mean, where's this land coming from?
Right. It makes no sense. And now we're getting to another component of the housing compact is transit-oriented development. It makes sense because some people might want to live in walking distance to the train. But this plan says that it is, as of right, a developer can build 50 units per acre within half a mile of any train station, and that includes the parking lots. So now you take anywhere around, and we love our train stations. We like to commute by train. We're doing it well. But you can take any area within half a mile of our train stations, and a developer can, as of right, build 50 units per acre. So now you have single-family homes next to each other, and one owner might say, well, it's time for me to cash out. I'm going to sell to a developer, and now that developer can build 50 units per acre right next to the single-family homes. So it's an impact not only if you live within the half mile. How about if you live 0.6 miles away? Now you're going to have the parking issues, the water issues.
Capacity.
Right. It's not thought out at all. It's a very poor way to accomplish this goal.
The roads are jammed right now. I mean, more communities are being developed right now. Right in back of my house, there's a big luxury thing going up. But the roads are just more traffic lights, more everything. The congestion is just absolutely incredible. So will the residents have any say here? I mean,
the residents have not been given any say. That's the whole point. I mean, when you say traffic, a normal thing that we do is when there is a planned development, we have traffic studies. But none of this is available anymore. So the first thing we have to do is convince the governor to not include this in her budget. And the Assembly and the New York State bills, their budgets are up there. We're in this negotiation stage now. But we don't know what will happen right up until the end. We don't know if Governor Hochul will prevail and keep the transit-oriented mandatory development and the 3% growth mandatory development in there.
I hate to use these words, but this smells like dictatorship.
It does.
It's a dictatorship.
Yes.
This is crazy.
It's a power grab by Albany. And they did not invite us to the table. That's what we're asking for. Take it out of the budget. Let us have a seat at the table so that we can do this in a smart way that protects our environment, that takes our community's needs into account, and let us continue to build in a smart way for Long Island.
So what can my viewer do? My viewer right now is watching this and saying to him or herself that, well, I'm upset.
Right.
What can they do?
Write to the governor, call the governor's office, write to your state legislators, call their offices, and tell them you want your voice protected. You want your quality of life preserved.
People should know how they can do this. If at some point, maybe on your website or something, you should give some directions to say, just click on this and go to this, so you can just type in what needs to be done.
Absolutely.
There should be something underway. Is there anything more to talk about with that?
Well, the next step, we're very hopeful that, I mean, with this amount of pressure, she won't take it out of the budget without the pressure. So the pressure has to keep up, very, very high pressure. If it is removed from the budget, we have to keep the pressure on again, because it'll come back as standalone legislation. This session will be there, for a few more months.
Right.
So we have to really speak up for our environment. We have great experts who are speaking out. This is a bipartisan issue. This is about our quality of life on Long Island.
This is bipartisan.
Yes.
Absolutely. Okay, so we're going to leave this for a moment, okay? As you know, for 2 terms, I functioned as the president of the Manhasset Chamber of Commerce, and I loved it, and great people. But one big issue that always kept coming up, and it never went away, was the problem of sewers.
Right.
Or the problems of the lack of sewers.
Right.
What's going on right now on that section?
Well, your successors and the Chamber of Commerce have been working very hard for the businesses to get a sewer line, which is just for the businesses. That, when you say sewer, some people think, oh, that means we're going to have the big apartment buildings.
Right.
It's a totally separate issue. And by the way, Governor Hochul is pushing for the apartment buildings, but that's not what we're talking about in Manhasset.
That's
Right. But that's not what we're talking about in Manhasset. We have a design for low pressure. It will be fueled by pumps connected to each business. There are 70 or 80 businesses that we're trying to help. And thanks to, again, this is a bipartisan issue. Assemblywoman Gina Solitti was able to get a New York State grant last year for $5 million. And that is going to cover the cost of putting a sewer line underneath Plandome Road in Manhasset and bringing it down to the Great Neck Water Treatment Center so that we will treat our water properly and it won't keep leaching into the bay.
Correct.
Where we have nitrates that are, killing. It's a terrible water quality. Everybody's always trying to fix Manhasset Bay, many great coalitions. So we have a pipe now, but our businesses need to connect to the pipe. And we want them to connect as soon as possible so that we have the benefit of the sewer and also so that we can go ahead with repairing the road and the sidewalk. So the town of North Hempstead has $9 million of American Rescue Plan Act funds available. I have proposed, and I submitted
on
this.
top of the 5.
Yes, correct.
Okay.
Gina Solitti got $5 million, and that is going to get the main pipe.
Right.
But the town needs to contribute.
The branches now.
Right. Yes, exactly, the laterals to connect to the pipe, from the pipe to the business. So the town needs to help. People have been asking the town of North Hempstead to help with this project for a long time. And the beauty of ARPA money is it's flexible. We can use this for something that benefits the restaurants. It's helping them come out of COVID. So it's a perfect use, and many municipalities are using it for sewers. So something that the town normally cannot bond for private business use, but we can use this ARPA money to incentivize the stores to connect to the sewer in a short time period so that they do it quickly, maximum usage, and then repairing the roads and the sidewalks. So I submitted that proposal to the federal government last year. Everybody was very happy. We thought we're finally getting this done for Manhasset. Unfortunately, our town board has failed to approve this 2 times now at town board meetings. And our residents are coming, our landlords, our business owners, and they say, we've been asking for this for a long time. And the sad thing is that 2 council members who represent the Manhasset Business District are not supporting it. So I have been urging the businesses, the environmentalists, the people who have been trying to put this sewer in and connect the Manhasset businesses to the sewer, please reach out to your town board representatives. Come to our next meeting is April 4th. Come down and show your support so that the town can commit this money and we do a design and we get this project finally going. It's pro-business and pro-environment.
I want to shift gears.
Yes.
You and I were discussing something that I wasn't aware of, redistricting. Can you please explain what's going on?
Right. So every 10 years, we go through a redistricting process. And this happened last year. Unfortunately, it was rushed through. I asked to continue this. We had several months before our deadline because many mayors, we have 31 mayors within the town of North Hempstead, and they weren't aware of this happening.
That's incredible.
We had fire commissioners, we had school districts, and they said, well, we want to be heard about this plan. It was rushed through, and many lines were changed. So some people don't know. They are now being represented by someone who did not represent them before. They don't know it. In fact, 2 districts had their numbers switched. And when you have 3 districts, the odd number districts voting 2 years, then the next 2 years the even districts vote, and you switch an odd and even number, you have some people who don't get to vote now for 2 more years. So and it's very unfortunate because people aren't even aware that they're not going to be able to vote this year, and that includes Manhasset. We're not going to get to vote this year for our town council member because of this switch. It is being litigated, but it's not widely known.
So Is this a legal thing or is this a political thing?
Well, it tends to be political. When the lines change so that one party retains control, so that one party has an advantage over the other, that looks political. But when you change the district numbers so that great numbers of people are disenfranchised, frankly, they're not getting to vote this year for their town council member, that is legal too. It's constitutional. And during the hearing on the redistricting, the attorney who presented the proposal was asked, doesn't this raise a constitutional question? And he said, yes, it does. But I wasn't paid to answer that question. So that's something the town board will have to work out. So we have a constitutional question, and I don't know when we'll have an answer. So it's something that people just have got to stay tuned to find out who represents you and why.
Talking about stay tuned, can you talk a little bit about the town of North Hempstead, the building department, and what are the issues that the public should know about?
So the building department has been, it's been slow, sometimes unresponsive. I receive complaints every day about the building department. Now, in fairness, there are a lot of reasons why people might not be getting their permit as quickly as they expect. Sometimes an architect missed something. Sometimes there's an issue with a cesspool. Some of the problems with planned-on road businesses are also related to not having sewer. So we see a lot of empty stores because there's no sewer and it's difficult to open a business. But there have been complaints about our building department for 15 years. And it's something that was widely discussed when I was campaigning. And so when I came into office, I tried to make some reforms. They were pretty much rejected. Our town board is reluctant to make changes. So fortunately, there's also the county controller, and they have an audit division. So it seemed to me we need an independent look at our building department, something that we've struggled with for 15 years. We need resources. And for us to make change now, I'm going to need it to be an independent resource and recommendations so that the town board will agree and we will make the changes to deliver the services our residents deserve in a reasonable time.
Is this something that you can do? Or, what's the mechanism?
So it's something I did. I asked the county controller to consider doing an audit. Then the county controller, they did their own assessment. They asked some questions, they took a look, and they decided, yes, this is something that is appropriate for an audit. So they began the audit at the end of the summer, around August. It's been going. We've had a few times where some information was not produced as quickly as expected. But I'm optimistic that we're going to finally have some answers that we can implement. And finally, it's the best thing for our employees and for our residents that we can have an efficiently working building department.
Is there a problem with the building department's transparency?
More transparency is always better. That's really been my motto, and that's one of the reasons I put our town board meetings on our North Hempstead television station. So more transparency is always better. It is something I'll hope for.
I'm enjoying our conversation, and I'm enjoying speaking with you, and I would like in the future for you to be able to come back, and at times we can have a conversation about what's going on so that my viewer doesn't know anything about this. And it's a great way to be informed. This isn't a debate. This is really just a forum for you to express how you feel, what you see, and what you believe would be in the town's best interest, and to give you the opportunity to be able to say why you feel this way. So that's why I'm glad we're having this opportunity to talk. Before we say goodbye, are there is there another area that you feel that we could let my viewer at home know more about?
I mean, the most important thing is to just stay informed. Local media, local reports like this, and local newspapers are so important because, the things you see on the nightly news, they're important too, but local government is really important. And this year is actually an election year, and it's the local government that people need to go choose. They need to know who's running. They need to know who their representatives are. And, at the local level, we're talking about your quality of life, your safety, your roads, your parks. So it's just so important that people keep following and ask questions, get to know your legislators, your town board, and stay informed. So I thank you so much for the opportunity today.
Well, you're very welcome. But it was, if you remember, in the House of Representatives during the Reagan years, Tip O'Neill. His famous comment was, all politics is local.
Absolutely.
And your local politics is the closest to you.
Right.
And you can do something about it by getting involved.
Right.
And there are many ways of getting involved. You did it at the highest level. You ran for office to be the supervisor.
Right.
But you can still get involved. And, you could still get involved, and that's by you sending a letter to the governor expressing how you feel about the local housing plan and how you feel about it. You can be involved. You don't have to run for office, but you can still let your feelings be known and your thoughts be known, which is critical. So there's many ways of becoming an activist in our town.
Yes.
Which I think. Listen, I really enjoyed this.
Me too.
Supervisor DeSena, it's a pleasure, and I'm looking forward. You have something that you feel the town should know more about, and you'd like to voice it where people can see you, by all means, please contact me.
Great,
as I will contact you as well. And I think this would be terrific.
Thank you.
It's an absolute pleasure to speak with you. And I'm going to ask you that before you leave, I would like you to sign my guest book here, because I'm very proud of the fact that we had an opportunity to speak. So would you do that?
Yes, it's my honor to do that.
You're terrific. I really appreciate that. And I also would like to ask you, well, you can't come here and sign the book, but instead we could say I look forward to seeing you again, and you certainly seeing us as well, and learning interesting stuff about, the house you live in. And that's where we are right now. So Dr. Pass is saying, thank you for giving me your time, and thank you for giving me your time, Supervisor DeSena.
Thank you so much. Thank you for educating us.